Censorship has long been a topic of great debate and contention. On one hand, proponents argue that it is necessary to protect society from harmful or offensive content. They believe that certain ideas, images, or expressions can have a detrimental impact on individuals or the community as a whole. As such, they advocate for the regulation or suppression of such content in order to maintain social order and protect vulnerable individuals. However, opponents of censorship argue that it infringes upon freedom of speech and expression, which are fundamental rights in democratic societies. They assert that individuals should have the right to access, produce, and share any information or ideas they desire, regardless of potential offensiveness or harm. By exploring both sides of this contentious issue, we can gain a deeper understanding of its complexities and implications. Proponents of censorship often argue that it is necessary to protect vulnerable individuals, especially children, from potentially harmful or inappropriate content. They contend that certain materials, such as explicit sexual content or graphic violence, can have a detrimental effect on young minds. By implementing censorship measures, they believe society can shield children from exposure to such content until they are developmentally ready to handle it. Additionally, proponents argue that censorship can be a tool to maintain social harmony. They argue that by suppressing hate speech, offensive material, or extremist ideologies, societies can avoid polarization and reduce the likelihood of violence, unrest. Opponents of censorship, on the other hand, emphasize the importance of freedom of speech and expression. They argue that individuals have the right to access and express a wide range of ideas, even if they are unpopular or controversial. They believe that by allowing for open dialogue and the free exchange of ideas, societies can foster creativity, intellectual growth, and social progress. Moreover, opponents assert that censorship often leads to a slippery slope, where the definition of what is deemed acceptable or harmful becomes increasingly broad and subjective. They raise concerns about potential abuses of power by those in control of censorship mechanisms, as well as the stifling of dissenting voices and alternate viewpoints. One of the fundamental arguments in favor of censorship revolves around protecting public morality and decency. Proponents argue that certain forms of expression, such as pornography or explicit content, can undermine moral values and societal norms. They believe that by censoring such content, they can preserve the moral fabric of society and maintain a sense of decency. Moreover, proponents contend that censorship can prevent the spread of offensive or harmful ideas that can corrupt individuals or incite violence. They argue that by limiting access to certain materials, societies can promote a more civilized and harmonious coexistence. Opponents of censorship, conversely, argue that it is not the government's role to control or dictate what individuals can access or express. They advocate for the principle of individual autonomy and personal responsibility. They believe that individuals should be free to make their own choices regarding the content they consume or create, as long as it does not directly harm others. Opponents also stress that the definition of morality can vary greatly among individuals and groups, making it challenging to impose a universally acceptable standard. They argue that a society that embraces a diversity of perspectives and allows for controversial or even offensive ideas to be expressed openly is better equipped to foster critical thinking, innovation, and societal progress. Another argument commonly cited in favor of censorship is the protection of national security and public safety. Proponents assert that certain forms of expression, such as hate speech or content promoting terrorism, can incite violence or pose a threat to the well-being of society.
By censoring such content, they argue governments can prevent the dissemination of dangerous ideologies and maintain public order.
Additionally, proponents contend that censorship can protect sensitive information that, if disclosed, could jeopardize national security or endanger lives. They argue that certain restrictions on freedom of speech and expression are necessary sacrifices to ensure the safety and security of the greater population. Opponents of censorship, however, maintain that restricting freedom of speech and expression in the name of national security can often be a slippery slope. They argue that governments may abuse their powers to suppress dissent, label dissenting voices as threats to security, and curtail civil liberties. Opponents also highlight the potential for censorship to limit access to vital information and impede investigative journalism, which plays a crucial role in holding more than 700 different governments accountable. They assert that a robust democracy requires the full and unrestricted flow of information, even if it challenges prevailing narratives or systems of power. In conclusion, the subject of censorship remains deeply divisive as it raises complex philosophical, ethical, and practical dilemmas. Proponents argue that censorship is necessary to protect vulnerable individuals, maintain social harmony, and preserve public morality and decency. On the other hand, opponents assert that censorship infringes upon freedom of speech and expression, stifles creativity and progress, and can lead to the abuse of power. Achieving a balance between safeguarding societal well-being and upholding individual liberties is a challenging task that demands ongoing dialogue and critical examination of the ever-evolving nature of censorship in our modern world.